Hi friends, let us see MCQs from the chapter Mother's Day. The very first question, who is the writer of the play Mother's Day? That is option D, J.B. Priestley. And then question number 2, what does the play Mother's Day talk about? That is option A, status of the mother in the family. Okay, then let us see question number 3. How does the author describe Mrs. Fitzgerald? That is option D, both B and C. Okay, that is sinister looking and then has a deep voice. And then question number 4, Mrs. Fitzgerald is a dash of Mrs. Pearson. That is option B, neighbor is the correct answer here. Okay. Then the next question number 5, it's wonderful having a real dash living next door. Complete the dialogue. That is option C, fortune teller. Okay, it is wonderful having a real fortune teller living next door is the correct answer. And then let us see question number 6. Where did Mrs. Fitzgerald learn to tell the future? That is option B, the East. Okay, is the correct answer. In the place the East, she learned to tell the future. Okay, and then question number 7. How does Mrs. Pearson describe her family members? Okay, that is option A, thoughtless and selfish. Okay, and then let us see question number 8. In what endeavor does Mrs. Fitzgerald help Mrs. Pearson? That is option B, to make her family treat her well. And then question number 9. How would you describe Mrs. Pearson? That is option D. Both the answers B and C are the options here. So we can choose the option D. Considerate and complained. Okay. Then question number 10. How does Mrs. Fitzgerald plan to help Mrs. Pearson? That is option C, by swapping personalities with Mrs. Pearson is the correct option. And then let us see question number 11. Next question. Mrs. Pearson was dash about Mrs. Fitzgerald's plan. That is option B. Hesitant is the correct option. Okay. Then question number 12. What is the first thing that Doris does as soon as she enters the house? That is option D. Asks her mother to iron her yellow silk is the correct option. Okay. Then let us see question number 13. What makes Doris astounded as soon as she enters the house? That is option A, the sight of her mother smoking. And then question number 14, where was Doris headed for the night? That is option B, she was going out with Charlie Spence. He is her boyfriend. Okay. Then question number 15. Buck teeth and half-witted, who has been described here? That is option C, Charlie Spence. And then question number 16. What are the changes that Mrs. Pearson referred to Cyril? That is option A, change in the way she is treated by the family. Okay. Then let us see question number 17. Why was Doris red-eyed? That is option C, because of crying. Okay. Then let us see question number 18. Well, she is suddenly all different. Who said this and for whom? That is option C, Cyril for her mother. And then question number 19. How does the author describe George Pearson? That is option D, pompous, solemn, 50-ish. Okay, so D, all of the above. And then question number 20. What was George's reaction when he saw his wife drinking stout during daytime? That is option A, he did not like it. And then question number 21. Mrs. Pearson tells George that he is being dash at the club. That is option D, both B and C, laughed upon and called names. So we can choose the option D here. Okay. And then question number 22. According to Mrs. Pearson, where Cyril had been wasting his time and money. That is option C, both A and B. That is option A, races, and then B, ice shows. So we can choose the option C here. Okay, and then question number 23. It's that silly old bag from next door, Mrs. Fitzgerald. Who said this? That is option B, Cyril. And then question number 24. What does George mean when he says we are at sixes and sevens here? That is option A, in a state of confusion and disorder. And then question number 25. When do Mrs. Pearson and Mrs. Fitzgerald get back to their original selves? That is when the situation goes out of hand. Option C is the correct answer. Okay. And then let us see question number 26. Mrs. Pearson's family had been dashed towards Mrs. Pearson. Okay. That is option D, unappreciative. And then question number 27. Mrs. Fitzgerald asks Mrs. Pearson to be dash with her family. That is option D, firm. Okay. And then let us see question number 28 here. Then question number 28. What does Mrs. Pearson suggest them to do for that night? That is option C, both A and B. Family game of rummy and getting the supper ready. And then question number 29. The attitude of Mrs. Pearson's family changes towards her comment. Yes, that is option B. Yes is the correct answer. Okay. And then question number 30. What message does the author of Mother's Day try to convey? That is option A, to appreciate wives or mothers for their work. Okay. So thank you so much friends. Kindly subscribe my channel.